that a constitution, and this should be Turkey's last constitution, enough of changing the constitution every time there's a coup or there's somebody who doesn't like or make these little amendments. And here the important issue is going to be what Murat mentioned, is it going to be, here I have a copy of the constitution, it's 177 articles. And each article has all kinds of sub-articles. So you're going to have another such horrible document, or you're going to have a much more simpler one. And that, I think, is a very interesting debate. But it's not, I would argue that AKP has the responsibility as the governing party of starting the conversation. They control the executive.
Well, if this will be our last constitution, I think the Turkish parliament will have an unemployment problem. So I think we'll have more discussions on the next constitution and how we have to change it. You see, political culture is very important in perceiving things and putting things in order. Now I'm talking as a Turk. This is our state. This is our land. And this is our nation, described as Turkish. Now we face the traumatic challenge of whether we will share this with other citizens of Turkey. We don't know how to do it. This is so traumatic, you know, it could sound funny, but it's so traumatic. We've been conditioned with that. We're proud as a Turk, it's our land, you know, under the heading of the biggest paper in Turkey said, Turkey belongs to the Turks. They said, no other people except the Turks live in this country. So we have to learn it, but we do not know how, what the issues, what the methodology, and so forth is. So winning the election by 50% may ease the solution, a possible solution. But what the solution will be is still not designed, not well thought of. That's the problem.
I don't know. I have a great fear with regard to the Constitution. AKP won with what might be called the margin of error. It didn't get 330 seats to draft its own constitution. It got 326, and today with the Dicle seat, it's up to 327. The tradition in Turkey is that the party loyalties of a few members of parliament in every parliament are fluid, in that they change party. So all Mr. Erdogan needs is 3 or 4 members to shift, and he can get his constitution. This is not beyond the realm of possibility or reality in Turkey.
Or finances.
I didn't say how he would get the 3 or 4 members. Let's say 3 or 4 moved for altruistic reasons, not just real estate. So he could get his constitution, and he wouldn't have to compromise, and he wouldn't have to concede, and he could draft it, and he created the AKP list of people who would vote the way he wants. There was no room for dissent. If you dissented at all, you're not on the list. That got elected for AKP. So that's my fear. I would like to be very wrong about that, and that he understood that the Constitution should be more representative than that, and that he needs the buy-in from the other 50% whose votes he didn't get. Like I said, I'd like to be wrong.
I think one hopeful observation here is that in his Balkan speech, the Prime Minister Erdogan acknowledged that, in fact, the message he got from the electorate after the elections is that people want a new constitution made with consensus and cooperation, not unilateral. So he has publicly acknowledged that. And I think that this is a good sign. Another good indicator is, in fact, there have been many amendments to the constitution that have been passed in the past in Turkey with inter-party cooperation during the 1990s and early 2000s. In fact, there have been numerous. I counted one, but I don't want to give you a wrong figure right now. There have been many, many amendments. So this is also a good, I think, example. However, these amendments were not about the foundational issues or foundational aspects of the Constitution. Basically, the preamble of the Constitution, which is supposed to summarize the common aspirations and ideology of the state and the people, the we the people part of the Constitution, and the first three unchangeable articles of the Constitution. Now, there is no consensus on these parts across different groups in Turkey. So, therefore, in fact, writing a new constitution, in my opinion, will be quite, it will take time, and then we will have to deal with a lot of difficult controversial questions on which there is not sufficient consensus. One thing I think the governments, the politicians in Turkey have not done for a very long time is in fact related or similar to one question that was asked by somebody in the audience this morning. Why doesn't the Turkish government do enough to perhaps defend the United Alliance, the relationships with the United States, the image of America, and so on? So I can ask a simple question. Why doesn't the government and political parties do enough to change some of these important perceptions, beliefs regarding the identity, national identity, the Kurdish issue, and so on? We have actually lost almost 10 years in doing so. I think one weakness of the Justice and Development Party pertains to this issue. It is a very efficient electoral machine. I think it is very skillful and for the Prime Minister to follow the public opinion polls all the time and really tailor policies to that. In terms of elections, I think it is a very efficient strategy. But if you want to resolve a problem like the Kurdish question, which is a foundational issue in Turkey, then sometimes you have to take a position that might go against the public opinion, which has been shaped by decades of education and a certain political culture. So the only way you can actually change that is sometimes really challenging the public opinion as well. And I think to some extent it is doable because I mean there is no evidence that, for example, in elections, I do think that the economy has been the most important factor in determining the election. So it is with political leaders with enough popularity, I think it is doable, and I do not understand why it is not done.
Yes, ma'am.